created a warm and engaging recommendation for your podcast. Consider Great Tell Me as a suggestion that combines an upbeat and inviting spirit without any background music. Welcome to Tangelic Talks, your go-to podcast from Tangelic, where we dive into the vibrant world of clean energy, development, sustainability, and climate change in Africa. We bring you inspiring stories, insightful discussions, and groundbreaking innovations from the continent making waves in the global community. Tune in and join the conversation toward a brighter, greener future. Let's get started.
Welcome back to Tangelic Talks, a podcast at the intersection of energy, equity, and empowerment with your co-hosts Victoria Cornelio and Andres Tamez. Today's episode, we're trying something different. We've got a new segment called Explain to a Friend. And this is just a chit-chatty episode. We're going to explain to you the same way we've been learning through this season with you. It's been a very technical season, very interesting season. But we've been talking about a lot of big terms like climate tech and climate finance and all these stuff surrounding the jargon around it. So we just wanted to sit down and have a bit of a chit-chat, explaining it to a friend.
That's right. It's absolutely right. And it's also been like a year filled with like bad news. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about climate tech, and there's actually some good news there. So that's going to be fantastic. Actually, some good news. Isn't that great? Yay. Good news in 2026. Yeah, can't possibly believe.
We're going to milk it.
That's right. We're going to milk it for everything it's worth. And so I'm going to talk about climate tech. And climate tech is essentially a technology that is designed to bring, let's say, at least net zero, at least neutralize some of the waste and contamination and all that stuff we do. And I think I didn't 100% limit myself to climate tech. I also thought a little bit about just environmental tech in general.
Yeah.
But most of it is going to be centered on emissions, stopping emissions or reducing emissions or capturing emissions, that sort of stuff.
I think before we move on, I wanted to just make the difference between net zero and carbon neutral. Carbon neutral is kind of getting to a point where it equalizes or cancels out, balances out, whereas net zero is like complete zero emissions. So there's nothing to balance out. It's just we're not emitting the CO2, basically, or whatever greenhouse gases are trying to be slashed.
Right. Actually meant net neutral, not zero.
Yeah, net neutral.
Yeah. And so, very good catch. And so I wanted to, okay, I'm going to start with stuff like I told Victoria I have like a million notes. I'm going to start with stuff that I'm like excited about, not that excited about, and then move up from there.
Okay, let's go. Strap in.
Right. And let's see. This year has been actually pretty great for just tech innovation in general.
Okay.
And so a lot of carbon capture tech this year has actually, you know how like we've been talking about, and we had a great guest that was talking about capturing carbon and actually using it for stuff.
Yeah.
And it's been a talk in the climate space for a while. And we've been able to do it for a while, but it's actually starting to become like something that can be done at a mass scale and can be profitable. So it can be sort of be its own like little industry, right?
Okay. When does it get to mass scale levels? What does mass scale mean?
Well, I believe, in my opinion, from what I've read, it's at the point where it is efficient enough that you can actually profit from it.
Okay. So it's not just like a good to have, it's like actually a money maker.
Yeah. It's good enough that you can actually profit for it, and it's good enough that you can actually that companies would actually want to implement it, because that's been
which is important. Yep.
That's right. Because can't.
So the business case is there.
Yeah, the business case is starting to be more and more there, right? Because like, and here's like a big thing that I wanted to mention, that just because a solution to a problem exists doesn't mean the problem doesn't exist, right? And I think I've had
Okay.
this a gripe with guests that we've had,
Mhm.
which is what they've talked about. For example, we've talked about data centers with a couple of guests,
Mhm.
and a lot of the guests are very tech optimists, and I love that. I love that they're tech optimists. But if you look at, for example, Colossus in Memphis, the facility that's used to train Grok, right? The giant data center. They're like, well, data centers can be not wasteful of water, right? They can have a
Mhm.
closed loop, and like a lot of data centers use, which I think is also climate tech, the capturing of water, because it's very important to take care of our water, especially
Yep.
in the U.S. and the South, where
Mhm.
it's very valuable.
Scars.
And so it's becoming, let's say, it becomes easier to capture water, and then because a lot of these technologies use evaporative cooling, so it
Oh,
directly evaporates the water,
got it.
because that cools a lot more than just simply running like a loop of water.
Makes sense. Yeah.
It's just
Is
way
it
more
like
efficient.
recycling water at that point?
Yeah, and so,
Yeah.
but a lot of these facilities, like Colossus, don't capture it at all. They just don't bother to. They grab water directly from the main source of water that
Yeah.
you have in Memphis and just evaporate it into the atmosphere. So we're like, yes, the technology exists, but they're not like, just because it
Okay.
exists doesn't mean they're actually implementing it
Got it.
in real
Okay.
life and in these gigantic data centers,
So
right?
we would need
And
kind
then
of like a
that's
mandate or something that makes it that you have to. Because if the
exactly,
tech is
exactly.
there, especially now
And
if it's a
then,
money maker, you might as well.
oh,
Because you might be
absolutely,
saving money
absolutely.
by
And
recycling
right
water.
next to them, they implemented a ton of methane generators
Oh.
that are borderline illegal in the United States,
Why do we need methane
um,
generators?
because they didn't want to wait for the electric grid to catch up to start.
Oh.
Uh, yeah, so
Yeah,
like they were
powering
like,
it.
actually, and so they used a legal loophole to make it so like, well, these aren't methane. This isn't a methane generator plant. This is a modular, like a methane generator. And it took until like I think very recently this
Mhm.
year that they were like, actually, that's also counts as a methane generator. You have to keep it up to the same standards. You can't just, and there was no capture method, but there, by the way. So
Yeah.
like that's the big controversy.
Oy, oy,
Like they
oy.
were just releasing the methane into the atmosphere. So they were releasing all of the water and all of the methane. So both of those problems are things that we've been told have been solved, but just
Mhm.
because it's been solved doesn't mean it's been implemented. So I just wanted to be cautious with the language.
I think that's a good
But
disclaimer to give because yeah, it's true. The solutions are there, but and we had a guest come on and say the solutions are there. We're just not using them,
yeah,
which is
absolutely.
frustrating when
Mhm.
you hear of these case studies.
Of course. And so here's the thing about carbon like capture. It's like I've heard that from what I've seen, AI has actually been like an up when it comes to this.
Okay.
It's being discovered to find more solvents that can grab CO2 from the air, using 20% less energy, right? Because it's not
What the AI using
completely
20%?
capture. Yeah, yeah. Well, they're using the AI to research new solvents,
Got it. Okay.
and
And
so
these
as
solvents
they
can do
research
it
them,
with 20% less.
yeah, exactly. With 20%
Oh,
less energy, they
okay.
capture more, and then that can be used in order to create what essentially it's not it's eco fuel. It's I think
Mhm.
they call it I don't remember what exactly they call the fuel. But one of the specific fuels that they used is they can capture it and turn into sustainable aviation fuel. And
Oh.
so yeah,
We've been talking about
that's
that
pretty cool.
for a while. That'd be
Mhm.
great. Because one of the big things with aviation as well is it's not just commercial planes, it's shipping and freights.
Yep.
So, and that's all scope 3 emissions, which are the hardest to track and the hardest to lower by that.
Right, right.
Mm.
They're also didn't really have that many alternatives up till
Yeah.
now, right? Like you didn't really have all the biofuels that you could use as diesel. You can't really use them as like aviation fuel because
Yeah.
it's a different type of thing.
Oh,
And
interesting.
They also do it to do like carbon infused concrete and stuff like that, like low carbon concrete and stuff like that. So that would uh, theoretically make them uh, make it more make it more stable, I would imagine.
Okay.
Like yeah. Didn't we? I believe we had a guest that was talking about they were making like replacements for drywall,
Yes.
and that's what his company did. And wasn't his stuff also like infusing
Yeah, carbon.
recycled? Mhm.
Yeah, it was
That was
planted. Mm-hmm.
super cool. Yeah, planted exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Next up was something that I've talked about a lot. We also had a guest that talked about it, I think, this season, which is hydrogen.
Yes.
And so hydrogen has been a difficult one for a while because it's energy intensive to generate, and the non energy intensive way to generate it, the green way, usually involved natural gas. So it's not that great,
Yeah.
but there have been a couple of really good breakthroughs which have to do with. Da-da-da. One sec, I said I have a lot of notes.
I love it. This is a proper nerdy episode.
Yes. Well, these are I like this stuff. Well, I've always been like a super techie, and so this is like
Yeah, right up your
so.
alley.
Some breakthroughs announced at the Spanish National Research Council that would be great for the hydrogen economy, which I think is the next step from EVs.
Yeah.
I've come around on EVs, but I still like hydrogen cars more.
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea is that they have found they have found a way to make new membranes. These membranes are 800% more permeable and 30% more selective than previously used, like previous industry standards for hydrogen.
I have no idea what that means.
So that would mean that so one of the ways that you get hydrogen, right, is electrolysis, which is to pass H2O and get the hydrogen and the oxygen,
Okay.
right? And so what you would want to do is have the hydrogen be like really basically passes through a membrane, a mesh membrane, right?
Okay.
And that's how you capture the hydrogen.
When
And
you
so if
capture
it's
the hydrogen,
800%,
are you separating it from the oxygen and
Yes.
just taking? Okay, so you pass water through a thing and separate it into the
Yes.
chemicals, right? Okay. So it's not like you're
That's
putting
right.
water on a car for fuel.
No.
Okay.
Actually, water is a byproduct of I believe water is a byproduct of when you use the vehicle, like the waste that comes out
Okay,
is
the
water
waste is
instead
water.
of like
Of course,
CO2
if it's
emissions. Yeah.
interacting with oxygen in the air, that makes sense.
Yeah. And so that's one of the really nice things about these vehicles, right? And it's another thing is that they don't use the lithium-ion batteries or like any of these like sort of a very resource and energy intensive batteries.
Yeah.
And
Does
so
that
by
mean
being
less mining
800%
for
more
critical
permeable,
minerals?
that would essentially be it. Yes.
Nice.
Now this it still relies on electrolysis, right? So it would still use energy, but because it's 800% more permeable, it means that the hydrogen passes through the mesh
Okay.
a lot easier, right?
Right.
And
so
more
it's
is
less
captured.
intensive.
Yeah, and it's 30% more selective, which means the hydrogen is more pure.
Got it. Okay.
And purity is a really important thing when it comes to hydrogen, to separating hydrogen and getting like good hydrogen for industrial use and for use in vehicles and stuff like that.
Does the more pure mean it has more power?
More not necessarily. Yes, well, it means more power is concentrated in like the liquid that you've gathered or the material that you've gathered.
Okay, like the atom has more power and therefore you need less of it?
Well, in a liter, you would have more power concentrated because you wouldn't have waste in it, right?
Got it.
And the waste could also interrupt different chemical processes that you want during the generation of as you use it for whatever purpose that you want to use it.
Right, okay, that makes sense. How do you charge a hydrogen-powered car?
So, it's like gas, just a 3 minute pump. It's a gas pump. but it's a
Really?
hydrogen pump. A lot of people were initially worried because they're like, well, isn't hydrogen flammable? Well, first, gas is flammable too.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and second, the research has found, I think Toyota did this, that by the hydrogen dissipates so fast if there's like a breach or like an explosion or something like that, that it would dissipate way faster than it would cost like a fireball or anything. So it's not like one of
Oh,
those like
okay. So if it gets released from
situations.
the pump, it's not like it's gonna catch fire out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's not going to be as bad as, for example, a gasoline.
Yeah, because it's
If
one of
there's
those
like
things
a,
like when you go to the petrol station, you have to turn your car off or you can't smoke around it, like all these flammable things,
exactly,
right? Yeah, yeah. So we treat it the same, I imagine.
exactly.
Yeah.
So this is the thing that I found as an example is historically separating hydrogen from other gases, CO2 or methane, took days and high energy. So you could also do CO2 and methane. Um, that with the new tech, you can do it you can do in 3 hours what you used to be able to do in 3 days.
Whoa.
And so that time equals energy, right? Equals
Yeah.
money, like everything changes. And so that I think is like a big case for this new technology. And also it also makes a case for being able to generate the hydrogen at the pump,
Right.
like
Okay. So
at
it's
a pump
happening
level. So
behind the
like,
scenes. You don't have to fill up the
right.
pump every time. Yeah, yeah.
So you can connect the, for example, gas station up to some gray water,
Mm.
or to you can also do it out of the atmosphere, but obviously it's a little bit slower. But with this new technology, like I think you can, even at 4% humidity, if you have a solar panel or a couple of solar panels connected to it, you can get a really good amount of hydrogen extracted. And so you can probably balance both. And so
Yeah.
you can do this to treat water,
Mm.
with like with wastewater. You can
Yeah.
just do it here. And we have to remember, like, when yes, we have to use water for this, but it uses much less water than fossil fuels use, because to get gasoline, to get diesel, you need to use a lot more water than
Yeah.
you would to get an equivalent amount of hydrogen. So its efficiency
Okay,
problems are being
cool.
solved. It's becoming a lot more viable, and so that's really exciting to me.
Yeah.
It's
Would we
really
be able to
exciting.
supply
And
enough for the demand?
well, demand is rising really slowly for now. So
No, I mean
the
like if we were
the
going to
issue
transition
is
everyone away from one to the other, would we be able to be like, "Hey, stop using this, here it is," or would it be kind of a transition that as more people are interested, then we'd be able to produce more and kind of catch up with demand for hydrogen specifically?
a couple of years ago, it would have been the answer would have been a solid no.
Okay.
Um, from any source of like being able to create hydrogen,
Hmm.
but it's become a lot easier. And
Okay.
so I think the ability to scale has gotten a lot better. And with the fact that silver lining to a lot of the data center stuff, um small form nuclear reactors are starting to become a really big thing, and you can get hydrogen directly as a byproduct of cooling them, not of the reactor itself, but of cooling the reactor. You
Hmm.
can create a really nice loop where you can generate hydrogen at pump, and then if you have a lot of small form reactors sprinkled throughout the country, you
Hmm.
also have uh, that supplementary infrastructure for
So kind of
hydrogen as
like a
well. You
two
can
for
also have
one
hydrogen.
energy
That's
source.
right. Hmm.
The
So
future sounds
that's,
cool.
yeah, no, the future sounds
Oh,
amazing to me.
okay, okay, okay. I mean, if it's out there, again, I always go back to the same thing. Why not?
People don't want to. Don't
Yeah.
want it to.
Yeah. Yeah. That's annoying.
So right. One of the issues with like standard electrolysis, because like the technology that's getting a lot better is to get hydrogen from other sources. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think I made a sort of a small little misstep there. Like it's in order to generate it from like CO2 and other different chemicals and get it that way. Electrolysis is still pretty inefficient when it comes to generating hydrogen,
Okay.
but with those fourth gen reactors, so fourth gen. So I'm going to talk about nuclear reactors right now because that's what I
Okay.
was really excited to talk about, and I'm running out of time for my segment. And so, fourth gen nuclear reactors, they are passively safe, which means that you can walk away from them, and unless physics breaks,
Yeah.
which in which case we will have bigger fish to fry, we'll have bigger problems. But unless physics breaks,
Mm-hmm.
then there is no probability of like it going like out of control.
So you
It
can just
just
leave them running and kind of go about your day.
yeah, you can just sort of leave them running. If there is an issue, it would just by the laws of physics just sort of cool itself
Yeah.
out and
Is this
run itself
specific to a commercial use of them or like at home, like to power a home?
out. It would be more of a community thing, I would think. Like if you
Okay.
want it for like your community,
Like
and
a
that would
plant
also
that
it would also
powers a
be
town or something.
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
exactly. So that would it would work perfectly fine. It would be perfectly safe, and these reactors run on waste as well. So like they would burn the waste, the waste that people are afraid of when they think of nuclear reactors, like the green
Yeah.
waste from like the Simpsons or whatever. It
Mm-hmm.
burns those as well. So like the fourth gen nuclear reactors are really good. Another thing they do is they produce heat at up to 700 to 950 C, and
Which means?
you can get the efficiency of hydrogen production up to 50%
Okay.
because at those temperatures the steam is a lot easier to electrolyze. And
Got it.
so right, and so you can split that steam into hydrogen and oxygen a lot
Mm-hmm.
easier.
Yeah. And everything would be happening in the same plant.
Yes, and you're not using electricity for this, it's just the cooling that you would
Yeah.
use for the reactor, right?
Yeah, it's not like an extra step or anything.
Yes, and again, yes, you're like, well, you're using water. It's like, yes, you're using water, but you're using a lot less water than you
Yeah.
traditionally would that for the generation of fossil fuels.
And also
Uh,
transforming water, not just wasting it, I guess.
you're wasting it, right? You're
Yeah.
turning into a byproduct essentially.
Yeah.
A very usable and very coveted
Mm-hmm.
byproduct.
How does it reuse
So
its own waste? Is that just part of how it's built?
yeah, it's just
Like
a
it
part
just
of
eats
its
stuff?
design, so it'll burn through it like fuel.
Okay.
It'll like the nuclear waste that it has. It is the stuff that it's going to burn. Like all the stuff that people are very scared of coming out of the reactor. And then anyway, like you can still have you still have those precautions of putting into a slab of concrete, and then like if you want, you can get injected deep into the earth, and you don't have to worry about it. But
Yeah, exactly.
it's
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
take a while to
Like
make a
it's
really
not
big
like we would just
slab.
not have. Yeah. It's not like we
Yeah,
wouldn't not have risk mitigations about it. Yeah, yeah.
right, exactly. And like there's been I've heard people say like well, what if people use it for weapons like yes, this is like radioactive stuff, but like it's not the type of stuff that you could possibly use for any sort of malicious intent, you know?
Also, it's already
It's a
being used
completely
for
different
weapons.
yes, but it's a different type of of uh of
Fusion.
material. It's not
Right.
like
Is nuclear
you
power
need
and like a bomb different? Like, do they use different nuclear
yes.
fusion? Oh, right. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Well, they use different. So, like, you have to. There's a way you have to treat it that would make it
Oh,
into what you would use for bombs, and for waste, that's just not really viable.
right.
And it's
Okay.
also, I think, like, I don't remember exactly what the weapon like uranium is. I don't think it's like the a weapon grade. It is the weapon grade material. There's other
Yeah.
stuff that you would use for.
Right. Okay.
Um,
Okay. I did think it was one of those where it's like, oh, it's a tool that can be used for good or bad.
Yeah, well, the tech can be exploited in both directions, but you don't exactly use the same material. You're taking
Yeah.
advantage of the same sort of process
Hmm.
at a physics level, but it's not the same. Yeah, what these plants are getting, nobody can steal and turn into a bomb,
Yeah,
essentially.
exactly. Huh, okay, that puts us at peace.
Yes, yes,
That's good to know.
absolutely. And one of the things that I think I've mentioned before on the podcast is how, like, one of the reasons that we don't have, for example, in the United States, for example, a great nuclear infrastructure, even though they do have a lot of nuclear reactors and they do rely on them in a lot of places,
Hmm.
is because they were regulated into oblivion. Like every single day, there was a new regulation, and so they'd have to stop work and restart work and like tear down and rebuild
Yeah.
constantly. And so it sort of stagnated the industry into not into oblivion. This year, that's changing a lot because the people that lobbied against it now need that energy right now.
Right.
The elite
We're
class that lobbied against,
switching gears.
yeah, yeah. Now they're like, I need it. I need it for my data center. And
Yeah.
so there are now options to fast track specifically small form nuclear reactors.
Yeah.
There are now being changes made to legislation that made it too difficult to create them. Legislation that's been stagnated by basically since the 1970s, and so that's super exciting.
Yeah.
To me, at least to me.
Well, it also sounds like it's profitable again, so let's invest in that.
Well, yeah, yeah. Well, it was always going to be profitable, just not as profitable as the alternative.
Exactly. Huh. Interesting.
Yes, yes. And so you have all of these things happening, right? And all the things that excite me specifically this year, like so breakthroughs in hydrogen, and nuclear, and there's also stuff about the newer battery formulations that are super cheap to make and can be
Yeah.
used for like solar farms and stuff like that to store energy. You could also
Yeah.
technically have them right next to to what I was talking about. If you are using electricity, you have a solar at a gas station has like its little
Hmm.
thing and it has its little solar roof, and that goes to a battery, right? So when there's no sun, it can
Yeah.
just use the battery, and it's constantly doing electrolysis to generate some hydrogen, right? And so it's just
That's quite
we
cool.
are we can create that
We're
loop where we're just
innovating.
getting exactly where
Mhm.
we're finally.
Well, it
But
kind
like
of, yeah.
uh these are technologies that are being fast tracked this year, and
Mhm.
that are having breakthroughs this year. We'll need to wait for the implementation.
Of course. Yeah, which is one of those. But it sounds like I think it's something we talked about in our deep dive last season that we were talking about AI specifically in the climate sector. And one of the things I was excited about is it does open us up to new innovation, to mapping the grid, to finding new solutions, all this stuff, you know? Like as much of an
Mhm.
AI hater as I am, I'm a hater of generative AI and chatbots and stuff, not these applications. I think this is really cool. And again, it fast
Yeah.
tracks because you've got the data, you've got the tools to make the business case now.
Now, we were talking about this. Like, is it is it actually is the technology, apart from the fact that it itself is very inefficient and bad for the environment,
Yep.
is it also mitigating enough for the fact that they're getting great? I was reading articles recently, sort of more and more they're getting so much more fossil fuels out of this
Yeah.
using AI. And so
Well,
like it's
again,
just
it's a tool that can be used for good and bad. You know, like every human tool we've ever created ever. The hammer is a great example of good and bad. You know, we just never know. But
the hammer of the
it sounds like the things where it is good are finally getting financed. And maybe it's one of those where it's like if we can power data centers with nuclear, which in turn can create hydrogen from cooling the data center and the nuclear reactor, then we might have solved one big gripe with data centers while creating a
yes,
benefit for the community.
absolutely.
That'd be a strong business
and
case.
it also fast tracks legislation so that you could actually implement it for your community, not just for data centers, right? Because they're like, one of the things that I was worried about is that they might be being like, well, we're deregulating just for the AI companies to use, and like, but
Exactly.
other people
Yeah.
can't do anything with it. But
Yeah.
apparently, this is it's good news.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds exciting, you know? And that's why I was touching on that finance aspect. So, what I wanted to explain was climate finance. And we've been talking about it already. Why are these things getting funded or not? What it once it's profitable is that when we start funding it. But that's basically what climate finance is. Who is paying for climate solutions and where the money is going. And in the tech space, it's, well, what technologies are we funding? What companies are we funding to fix, the issues that come with climate change or to adapt to the issues of climate change? But it's also about what communities are getting to adapt or to mitigate. And that's why the example of the data center brings me back to communities, because it's like, if you're able to create something, data centers, most of them are created in places where the community suffers. It's similar to like coal plants back in the day, when everyone got black lung from it. It's, well, how are you going to pitch to a community, hey, we're coming in, like, what are you giving them? And sometimes it's, when we talk about finance, it's not always money. It's about the resources to adapt and mitigate, right? That's a simple version. I think one of the main
Right.
things is that money comes from government, private sector, and then international money. One of the things with government is that the government gets to fund projects, whether through a council or the state, these sorts of things. But that's all taxpayer money. So you have
Yeah.
to sort of justify to the taxpayer, this is worth investing in. Or you do if you're more of a democratic country, right? Some
Yeah.
countries don't have
You don't
to.
need to. You don't need to do that in the United States. You also don't have to do it for any good reason. You just put it into OpenAI.
Yeah, exactly. But
Bail it
also,
out into.
but similar to the business case, what's the people case for why we're investing more on X, Y, and Z? But also, if you are running an election and you want people to like you, and you're like, hey, I've got this great idea for building parks and doing 5-minute neighborhoods so it, helps the quality of life of everybody here. That's a case. That's one
That
way
is
to
a
get
case.
funding, you know? But you also get the
Yeah.
private sector, which is kind of like companies, bank investors, and that's where tech also comes in. Because all these companies are private entities that sort of decide their own budgets and they put their money where they want to. With more ESG regulations, they're kind of held to a different, or one must
Yeah.
hope, a stringent standard of the things they have to
Well,
do.
that's one of the things, right? Like, if uh, do you think that, I'm sort of leaning here this direction, like there
Mhm.
needs to be sort of a a strong and firm government position where they're going to be like, yeah, you have to do this.
I mean, we've talked
And
about ESGs this season, and
mhm,
it sounds like, and I can't believe I'm saying this, capitalism is kind of winning on this one.
mhm,
And when I say that, I mean it in the sense of, if the point of capitalism is that every company gets to pitch themselves and get customers because they're better than the other, and this is a competitive market. If people care about climate change, they're going to go for the companies that care about climate change as well. So ESGs
yeah,
is becoming a thing that people implement for PR reasons and because the people want them to, not because the government is asking them to. And
right.
to an extent, I'm
But
not mad about that, because at least it's
sure,
happening.
what are industries in which you would say that this is happening a lot in?
I think in fashion, you see it a lot. So Patagonia is just plowing through, but then you get even things like H&M and Zara, which are fast fashion, doing like a cotton sourceably farmed collection and a Primark Cares collection. You get these brandings around it, and even if the company itself isn't sustainable, they're coming out with sustainable options. Whether that's true or not, down to scrutiny, and greenwashing is a big issue here. But even like small coffee companies that are sustainably sourced and they sell a coffee cup for $10, but it's the best coffee you've ever had and they're helping farmers. And one of the things I'm seeing with a lot of companies, especially in the last 5 years, is a lot of the services, especially, tie to you're helping someone else. So if any of you watch YouTube a lot of sponsors like Bombas, for example, you buy stocks and they donate to someone else. Or things like I don't know, HelloFresh even now has a thing where they're donating to food banks with your own. HelloFresh has a lot of issues, but it's like this is coming into the model and no one's making them besides the customer
Yeah.
that wants to support a company that's doing good, you know?
Right.
And
Yeah, I
finance is
feel
showing
like
up to do that.
no, I feel like you're absolutely right. The issue would be the more monopolistic industries, right?
Yeah,
That don't need to compete on these grounds.
exactly.
Um,
Yeah, they don't need you to care.
yeah, they
Yeah,
don't they really don't care. But you for that you have the strong arm of the government. Hopefully.
exactly. Hopefully. One must
Nowadays
think.
it's sort of like the flaccid weak arm of the
Well, that's where
some
international
bureaucrat.
finance comes in as well. So, international finance, things like development finance, like the global north to the global south, you might have this council or this research fund funding projects in the south.
Yeah. So
You also get richer, like institutions like the UN or Amnesty, human rights organizations investing, the Adaptation Fund from the ICC, also the ICJ. So these bigger international
what are
mechanisms.
these? What is ICC, ICJ?
So the ICC is the International Climate Change Committee, and they're the ones that host COP. And the ICJ is the International Court of Justice. And we talked about it last season that they passed a law
Hmm.
where countries will be able to prosecute damages against the environment, which is very exciting. And we've
Right.
kept an eye on that.
Like
And it was used in this latest COP, which is very exciting.
right. And so what do you think is the most efficient use? Because like from what I'm reading, because I was looking up what I was talking about earlier a little bit more. Like once you put
Mm-hmm.
these new like membranes together with the nuclear, you get efficiencies up to 90+%, right?
Yeah.
And so with the better use of these international, especially international funds, because you don't know where to put them. There's so many places to put this money.
Yeah.
Would it be better to put it into more than likely research and development into making it not something just sustainable but maybe even profitable, and then being like, okay, companies, now you have no excuse.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to regulate this. You cannot fight back. You can this is an industry now too, right?
I
So would it be better to put it more into research and development, or is it uh for the global south? I guess there's a little bit of a different there's a little bit of a different uh there's a caveat there, right? Because
yeah.
what you want is more development, but at
Mm-hmm.
the same time, like there's so much development to do and very limited quote unquote funds, right?
Yeah. Well, I think it's one of those where it's like R&D is necessary, research and development is necessary, but the money, again, it's what you were saying earlier. We have the solutions. So we need implementation and we need money to implement. So we can stop
Where do you
researching
implement?
for a bit. Well, and this is what the adaptation fund was supposed to fix. Right. I'm going to go on a quick run on the adaptation fund as if I don't do this enough on this podcast.
Go ahead, go ahead.
But the adaptation fund was created with a tier system of countries that were going to be affected by climate change. And this tier system is lethal. How many people were going to die, be displaced because of the effects of climate change? That's how we prioritize who we're helping, right?
Right.
Cool. We also factor in who has the resources to adapt. So you have
So
countries
high risk
like
would be like Scandinavian coast and also Britain, but they have their own. They also have the funds to
exactly.
actually fix it themselves. Okay, go ahead.
Exactly.
Sorry.
There you go. Exactly that. Yeah. Whereas you have the small island states in the Pacific that don't have the funds, don't have the infrastructure either. Because there is a conversation to be had, for example, Japan. Japan is extremely affected by climate change, but even before natural disasters, Japan just gets earthquakes all the time. And that's a natural disaster. But they know how to adapt, and they have the infrastructure to adapt and the resources too, as well. So it's all these things taken into account. And what are we going to do? One main thing is island states. And Britain, the UK doesn't count as an island state because it has resources. But you have things like the Maldives that are fully sinking. There is an island on the outskirts of Panama that has started moving everybody mainland because it's sinking. Indonesia is losing allotments. Like, the ground is sinking. And that's exactly what the Adaptation Fund was supposed to help us with. Do we have to move everyone mainland? Do we have to create new seawalls? What do we do? But all the bureaucracy has made it that we haven't implemented it. We haven't used it. Money's just sitting there. And it's also not enough money.
And a lot of the I would imagine, you correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of the bureaucracy has to do with just putting stops on it because they need that money to flow somewhere else, even if what they're doing is trying to chase something expedient and ignoring something really, really important, which is the fact that your island is sinking. But bureaucrats don't care.
Right. No, but also, and this is why I'm excited about the private sector for once, is that because these are international organizations, they need bureaucracy because we're not playing on an even field of a shared law framework or a shared understanding of how finance work, right? These are international, so they have their own agree that then has to be adapted to the place, right? Whereas now, if you have a private company that has the information, the research, and the development of how to help, they can just come in and help within the boundaries, national laws of the place they're operating in. That really makes it, especially multinationals, they all adapt to the different contexts that they're in. So not to sound like a capitalist, but the fact that the market is supposedly working to an extent here is something I did not think we were going to see in a while. And my worry is the inequality angle of a lot of these things. International organizations are great for conversations and for us to align agendas, but finance isn't coming from there. It's just not. It's just not happening.
Yeah, and I the wealth transfer is a big issue. It has been for a while, and it's getting worse. And another big problem, right, of the international money is a lot of it is very gray. You don't really know where it's coming from or where or what are the wink wink nudge nudges that come with it, right?
Well, even that, right? Because we need it, right? We need the money.
Yeah.
I think the point is that
we'll think about that later.
Yeah, because we're sinking.
Yeah, true,
you know,
true.
You can't be picky when you're sinking. We got to do something. Yeah. I think one of my issues with the money itself is there is enough of it, but it's framed as a grant rather than it's framed as a loan rather than a grant. And you're asking a country that is trying to rebuild and survive to pay you back.
With interest? No.
Depends who's giving it to you. But a lot of countries go into debt trying to deal with a crisis they didn't cause. Because again, if Malaysia is asking for a grant from the UK Council, let's say, UK International Development Council, to rebuild seawalls, it's not their fault that they were plundered by the UK back in the day and they lost their resources. And that's why a lot of people talk about climate reparations, because that's kind of how the ball falls in a lot of these inequality conversations. But even if you don't want to be a socialist about this, the fact that you have to pay back for reparation and rebuilding your country and all this destruction didn't happen because of you is crazy. For example, there was a big conversation about China and India being part of the Adaptation Fund because they're huge economies and everyone's like, well, they have the resources. But Not really. They started developing 50 years ago. And they've been building infrastructure like crazy, and that's awesome, but it doesn't mean that they're not going to be affected by climate change, which means they can get some money and pay it back because they're making it back, but they need the money now. That loan to me makes sense because they will generate it back. But where do
And they
you draw the
are
line?
not climate infrastructure, but they are quote unquote helping. And what I mean helping is they are doing deals with a lot less strings attached than the West does with developing countries.
Yeah.
And so say what you want about China, but they have been pretty good, for example, switching over from European mining operations to Chinese mining operations in Africa, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, you're like, are they? I'm not saying they're perfect. I'm not saying they're not going to be abusive. I'm not saying like these mining operations are perfect. But what I'm saying is there's a lot less strings attached, and there's a lot of less, and there's a lot less responsibility levied onto them for, as you said, previous extraction, because China has sort of done their own thing for a while.
Yeah, exactly. And then that brings us into the conversation of carbon markets, right? Because supposedly it's a way for us to offset emissions. So kind of going back to what you were saying about being carbon neutral. But say you have a big corporation that is based in Ireland. And I'm not thinking of a specific example, but if you know, you know. That is based in Ireland, but it offsets and pays for credits that then get traded to supposedly fund climate projects in Sri Lanka, let's say, random place. But now you're making it Sri Lanka's problem because the carbon is attributed to them. And if they don't have a climate
so they're buying the
happening,
carbon debt, essentially.
So you're basically saying, hey, that's not my issue anymore. Here you go.
But
again, carbon markets could
funds
be
are moving with this, right? Like,
and
are funds moving with
supposedly.
Ideally,
you're paying.
Well, that's the point. Not just ideally. That's the whole point, right? You're paying them to offset your emissions, and so I think that could work, especially for a developing country.
Oh, it'd be perfect. And it's one of those, like, if you think about it, I know WWF does something similar, where it's like you can track your carbon footprint and then plant a tree. Or plant how many trees you need to offset how much you consume that day or whatever, right? Like, this could work. And it goes back to what you were saying. We have solutions. We're just not using them. Because how perfect would it be that, I don't know, the UK offsets its emissions, pays for those emissions, and powers up a whole off-grid community in Ghana? That's perfect. That's actually justice. That is climate justice. Yeah. Carbon markets would make so much sense, especially if we're assuming that we're going to keep going business as usual. And it's like, well, we can't stop. We have to keep going. Fine, keep going, but then put your money where your harm is.
And here's one of the reasons that I think we can't get rid of carbon or fossil fuels based markets, because they are a big boon, for example, for the United States to basically say, if you transition to nuclear first, right? If you transition, then all of this fossil fuels that you have is assets. It's just assets that you have. You don't have to burn them. Now, the weird thing with the United States is that they don't use the fuel that they extract. They sell it and they buy fuel to use it themselves. And so, like,
which is bizarre.
A lot of, like, it's very you weigh because of how political petroleum is. Yeah. The way it flows throughout the world makes literally zero sense, because it's politics, and politics is Jedi mind tricks.
Yeah. I actually had a friend explain it to me. Like, so I'm a big cider drinker. I love cider. And I live in England, in a place that grows its own ciders and its own apples that are used for our own local cider. Imagine if we did that, sold the apples to Scotland, where they don't drink cider, and then Scotland sends us back their apples.
Wouldn't that be a horrible idea? Would it?
Who came up with that? Who came up with that? Why? Because also, what
Well,
is
that's
Poland
because
using their apples for? They don't drink cider.
that is true. And also, they already had some.
Yeah.
So
why are you buying more if you have some already? And why are you selling it to us?
Is it a cost thing?
If we
Is
have
it like
exactly? And that's how they explained it to me. They were like, "That's how oil kind of flows." Because it's like, well, you have oil and I have oil, and we both, let's say, need oil to power our grids. Then let's just use our own. We all talk about self-sufficiency and energy sovereignty. So, like, use your own.
emphasis on talk about?
It's bizarre. It's absolutely bizarre to me. The economics don't make sense.
Yeah, well, it goes back to like, or you could say, how about no apple, which is what Germany did. Like, what if we just don't want to eat?
Yeah,
apple is your only food source. Apple is 70% of your food, and you just decide to throw it out into the ocean.
Thanks, though.
No more. I don't like this.
Bit crazy.
I'd rather be 70% more hungry.
Yeah, which is bizarre. But that is basically what I think about when I think of climate finance. It's like, yeah, the money, what's funding the tech that Andres was talking about, but also how are people getting helped or snuffed in this conversation?
Right.
That's how I would explain it to a friend.
Oh my God. That's good. That was good.
Right? No, yours was really good too. Thank you. And if you guys, friends, didn't understand it, leave us some comments. You can also reach out to us on Tangelic Talks. We're on Instagram, and we're soon to be on TikTok as well. So find us there. If you want to come on the pod to talk to us about any of the things that we presented today, or you think we're misled or we don't understand something, got anything that you can clarify?
There's a lot of stuff
which
we
is
don't
always
understand.
true. Please reach out to us at podcast@tangeliclife.org, and we'd love to have you on. And on the website, tangeliclife.org/Tangelic Talks, you can find the blog with all the resources of the things we've been talking about today. If you want to fact check us, or if you just want to learn more, please. And I think that's it. I think I've done all the plugs.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. We did it.
Yeah. We did it. Woo! We podcasted. How fun. We'll catch you guys on the next one.
Let's talk power, let's talk change. From rural lights to brighter days. Equity rising, voices strong. We're building tomorrow where we all belong. Tangelic Talks, energy, equity, pride. Empowering the world, side by side. A spark becomes a fire, a vision that's true. Together we rise, it starts with you.